He's right. In the future, full quarter will be given to British wounded and any who surrender.
The British men of war gave no such quarter when it fired on a ship carrying my wife and daughters.
You have my sympathy, but my order stands.
Damn your sympathy.
We're militia. This is not regular army. Every man here is free to come and go as he pleases. But while you're here, you will obey my command, or I will have you shot.
Now, here again, we have to depend on Mel Gibson in a Hollywood movie to describe, for all of us, what the militia is. So we know and understand the reference in the Second Amendment that the right of the people to keep and bear arms, to, you know, all that stuff about keeping and bearing arms. Oh, well, that was only for the militia. Oh, in other words, when they teach it in our schools today, that means that the Founding Fathers wanted to guarantee the rights of our soldiers in the Continental Army and the National Guard to keep and bear arms. If any of you can show me any reference that the Founding Fathers were ever worried about that, please let me know. I haven't been able to find that one yet. Because it's not true and it's a joke. And anybody would have to be half an idiot to believe that that's what the Founding Fathers were doing when they're devising freedom and to protect freedom. And so then we have to depend on Mel Gibson to tell us what the militia is. Well, the National Guard couldn't have been them. They weren't formed until 1903. And we're talking about 1787 here. And so, the Founding Fathers, let's ask them. George Mason, Richard Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, they all said that the militia, when properly formed, are the people themselves and consist of all men capable of bearing arms. And when I formed my posse, my militia, we included women. But they were asked to keep and bear arms, because that's what the militia is. You want a more historical perspective of the Second Amendment? The militia was exemplified by the ride of Paul Revere. Who did he call out? The Continental Army? No. He called out his countrymen. Grab your guns, grab your assault rifles, because we're going to fight our own government. We're fighting the redcoats because they're coming. And I'm calling out the militia. And the posses that your sheriffs have used over the years, when they used to use them all the time, and now, do you know that Sheriff Arpaio in Phoenix has 3,000 on his posse? It's a standing militia. But you can't say the M word now because it's been demonized by our wonderful media. And so that's it though. When you ask the Founding Fathers, George Mason said, I asked, sir, what is the militia? Is the whole body of the people. To disarm the people is the best and most effectual way to enslave them. That's why we will not disarm. And folks, I'm not a gun enthusiast. I never even owned a gun until I was elected sheriff. True story. I don't hunt. I don't care if you do. If you'll please bring me back the elk and venison, I will. But I don't hunt. I'd rather go golfing or play tennis. This is the threat of arrest. It's in your little booklet that you can take home with you. Under a separate provision of the Gun Control Act, any person who knowingly violates the section of the Gun Control Act amended by the Brady Bill shall be fined under this title, imprisoned for no more than 1 year or both. Now, the federal government came back with, my lawyer told me, we better get an injunction while we're being in court to stop the federal government from arresting you. And I said, okay. Sounds like that might be fun. But the other side gets a chance to quash the injunction. And so Janet Reno writes a letter to Judge Roll and said, Mack doesn't get the injunction on this case because we have no intention of arresting the CLEOs, or the chief law enforcement officer, or the sheriffs. That threat is only aimed at the gun shop owners. I didn't see it in there either. And it says that we shall make a reasonable effort to do those background checks. So if we shall not do it, we're subject to this, aren't we? And I wasn't going to do it. And so Judge Roll, again siding with me, granted me the injunction. You know what that is? That's the same as an order of protection. If a woman wants to stop her husband and she gets an order of protection, So you have to stay 500 feet away from what's her name, okay? This is the same with the federal government. Clinton administration had to leave me alone, okay? And when Judge Roll issued his memo, or issued the injunction, he said, Janet Reno doesn't get to change the law just because she writes a memo. Yeah. I love that. So anyway, we won again, and here's Judge Roll doing the right thing, principled thing, against his own boss. Okay?
Let me have those front seats. Y'all better make it light on yourselves and let me have those seats. Are you gonna move? No. If you don't give me that seat, I'm gonna have you arrested. You may do that.
I can't believe it. This was America.
Not that long ago.
Not that long ago. Well, I'll tell you the exact date. December 1st, 1955. In America, one of our fellow citizens arrested. And why? Because she's a troublemaker, that's why. I'll bet you she even believed in raw milk. Don't laugh because you're next. I know you like raw milk. You like raw milk, don't you?
I do.
Just who in the heck do you think you are? God, we have so many troublemakers that think they can just eat anything. So anyway, Rosa Parks though, she went to jail that night. 1970, Kent State University. About 13 students are shot, 6 are killed. You know why? Because they're protesting the Vietnam War, the invasion of Cambodia. Some were just passing by looking. They got shot too. 67 rounds from the National Guard. Maybe we do need gun control against those guys. The government's the one that's misused guns most of the time, if you want to know the truth. Randy Weaver in Ruby Ridge, Idaho, 1992. Gets his wife and son killed by federal snipers. Waco, 79 people died. The hands of the government. Okay? My question on every one of these, including this one, is that somebody should have stopped it that was wearing a badge. Somebody at all of those incidents that took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution should have made sure none of those things happened. No heroes at any of these incidences. We all kind of made excuses for them. Oh, cops are overworked, or, you know, they have so much pressure and they're fighting every day for us and peace and tranquility in the American way. And we allow and make excuses for this type of behavior. My question is, if you're a constitutional cop, if you really took an oath and you gave your word to uphold and defend the Constitution, what do you do when you're called to make this arrest? Today or then? You see, I want you to ask your favorite cop, your friend, your cousin, your uncle. Ask your sheriff, if you were called back December 1st, 1955 to this bus, and you're supposed to arrest this troublemaker who won't get to the back of the bus for a white man, and knowing what we know now about freedom and American ideals and equality, knowing what we know now, You go back as a cop in your uniform. You get on the bus. What do? You're gonna haul her in, Fuzz? You're gonna teach this troublemaker a lesson? She was hauled in, fingerprinted, photographed, and booked into a cell, and then immediately bailed out. Or not immediately, but soon thereafter. What do? This is what I hope I would have done if I was called to that scene. I would walk up to Rosa Parks and say, "What's the problem here, ma'am?" And she looks up at me kind of timidly and she goes, "Why can't we just be left alone?" And I said, "You know what, Mrs. Parks? You're right." And I sit down next to her and I reach over and I shake her hand and I said, "Ma'am, what you did here tonight was very honorable and very courageous, and I admire you for it. And if you don't mind, my deputy and I would like to escort you home and make sure you get home safely to your family." She could have been lynched for this. Some were for much less. This was in America. And now all we have done is we haven't stopped this. We've just gone to different groups. We've tried it with the gun owners, and we've tried it with the homeschoolers. And now I want to ask every sheriff, will you arrest Rosa Parks today? Rosa Parks, the gun owner. Rosa Parks, the farmer who just deals with raw milk and raw cheese and wants to run their business the way they want to. Before all you regulatory bullcrap people got put into office. And how about the farmer and the rancher and the homeschooler and the tax protester and everybody else who just wants to be left alone? We don't want you taking care of us. We want to be Americans where we either live the dream or we let it die, but it's up to us. And we don't want to be forced into your health care. And we don't want to be forced into your little cocoon of behavior. And we don't want you running our families and our lives and our education and everything else that you think you own. Our land, our water, our air. We want to be free Americans, and we want you to leave us alone. And you know what? There's people here that live in your county that can help you get that. And that's where you've got to concentrate. And what do? We get our county commissioners and our county sheriffs working together to erect those barriers against the federal government from victimizing our people.
Yes.
And then we take back America county by county and state by state. Because if you think that there's hope to get back freedom in Washington, D.C., I've got beachfront property for you in Omaha. Now, this is what Ronald Reagan said about our IRS tax system. It's utterly unjust, completely counterproductive, it reeks with injustice, and is fundamentally un-American. Now, I'm a little bit taken back by this because I don't remember that he really did much about this. But he at least said it. And I got to ask another question to your sheriffs and your local police. Who's supposed to protect your people in your jurisdiction from injustice? If there's injustice coming from Washington, who's going to stop it? I have to ask that question because you know what? You promised and you took an oath to protect people from injustice. Does it really matter that some of it comes from Washington or other government? I'll guarantee you, the street gangs and the gangbangers will give you a lot fairer fight than the IRS ever will. Okay? This is right from the case. This is Justice Scalia. It's in the little book. These only cost $2. If you can't afford it, I'll give you one. They're 3 for $5, 7 for 10. Take them home. Share them with the people you really want to show this to. Okay? Justice Scalia, U.S. Supreme Court. We have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal direction. What? We're not? Don't you wish your state legislature knew that? Well, show them. Hand them that book and then say, "Can I have 10 minutes so I can read it to you?" Because you'll give it to them and they'll throw it on the table or desk and they're not gonna read it.